Hi everyone, my name is Renata and I will be hosting today's session on behalf of Spanatech. Before I introduce our panelists, I want to thank all of you for being here and also thank Triac for sharing the resources that allow us all to connect on this lovely evening. If you have any questions during this presentation, please write in the chat and we will address on the middle of the session and the 10 minutes at the end. I'm really happy to introduce Dana Dossel, who will talk about personal branding and communication to succeed. Dana Dossel is the owner of Dozy Incorporation and co-founder of Side Party Digital. She helps Spanish and English-speaking executives use the communication as a growth mechanism for their business and careers. Through those incorporation, she provides one-on-one communication, consulting, and programs that teach Latinos how to communicate effectively within the North America market. At Side Party, Dana creates and implements digital transformation strategies for companies with fancy, real estate, and legal industries. She speaks fluent Spanish, loves Latin culture, and you can catch her sipping a coffee at pretty much at any time of the day. For those who are participants of the mentorship program, please complete the mentorship tracking tool since it is a requirement for graduation. And remember that we have our graduation event on November 12th. Details will be sent through email. Without further ado, Dana, over to you.
Thank you so much, Renata. That was a really amazing introduction. So I'm really excited to be here. I was thinking about it just before we got started. And this is my 10th time doing this webinar. Sometimes I've done that in Spanish, sometimes I've done it in English, but always it's really had these two core elements to it, which is understanding how to build a personal brand and how to leverage it as a financial asset and how to do that through being a powerful communicator. So that is what we're going to be focusing on today. So this is our agenda. I'm going to break it down into 3 different parts. And my goal, so my reason for being here is to help every single one of you that have come here tonight understand how to build the foundation of your personal brand. And I want to empower you to start using it as a growth mechanism for your career, whether that's getting a promotion, getting new clients, or you just want more cool human beings in your network. You can actually do that in a strategic way. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started by taking a look at what a personal brand actually is, because I think that there are a lot of misconceptions that it's just an Instagram influencer, and that's not true. And what it can actually mean when I say a personal brand can be a financial asset. Then we're going to move into the actual building your foundation. So everybody has a worksheet. It's called the personal branding worksheet. If you have that, you can start filling it out as we go through the webinar, but you can also save it for later. You can be really focused on what I'm saying and then have that as an exercise to complete after the webinar and really start using it as a tool. And then lastly, I'm going to show you a couple examples of what I mean by leveraging your brand through powerful communication. So this can be reaching out to a hiring manager, or even if you want to get a mentor, how do you actually use this reputation that you've curated to grow your network strategically? So these are the areas that we're going to focus on. And I know Renata did an intro, so I'm not going to go too far into this. Just to add a couple of things, I started learning Spanish about 3 years, almost 3 years ago. I took my first course here in Toronto, absolutely fell in love with Latin culture. And in the last year alone, I've been to Mexico, Argentina, and Costa Rica. And I've been living in Mexico for almost a total of 8 months in the last year. So I really dedicated myself to learning about what the differences are in communication and business culture between Latin America and North America, which has been really fascinating for me because there's so many differences in the language and just the way that we communicate. And also Colombian coffee is my absolute favorite. So that's why I always have that in my bio. You can pretty much catch me sipping coffee at any time of the day, and you can pretty much be sure that it's going to be Colombian coffee. Just a little bit more about me. Now, let's actually dive in. So this is what a personal brand is. I'm just going to make this a bit smaller. There we go. So your personal brand is your reputation, and what a lot of people think of is an Instagram influencer, somebody that has all these partnerships and they're posting a ton of content. That is one way of personal branding, but that typical Instagram influencer that we think of, that's a very specific type of personal brand. And for everybody that's here today, we're really focusing on creating our personal brand in a business environment. So we have to kind of approach it a little bit differently. But the key thing that I want you to understand from this is that when you are creating your personal brand, this means you are intentionally positioning yourself as a subject matter expert in order to influence somebody. So for example, if you are an IT manager and you're looking to get promoted to be a senior IT manager, then who's the person that's going to promote you? That's going to be the audience. That's the person that you want to influence. And then you can start to make some really solid assumptions about the type of subjects that you need to be an expert on. Management, IT, agile development methodologies, whatever it is that you need to demonstrate, you have the credibility to do that in order to take that next step in your career. And specifically talking about the monetization or creating your personal brand as a financial asset, here's how I think about it. Is your reputation is the feeling that you give somebody. So this is your brand. You know, if you have people in your life, and we're going to go through a little exercise in a minute, when you have people in your life and you always associate them with a happy feeling, or like they're really good at their job, and you think of that person when you think of needing an IT manager. And then your brand in practice, so when it's actually being implemented, is how and who you influence. How are you influencing these people? Are you influencing them by teaching them something, by inspiring them, by bringing a community together? And then who is actually in your audience? So who are you trying to influence? And then lastly, and this is a really, really, really important topic in 2020 and beyond, is the topic of influence. And I think influence has a really bad reputation because, again, we think of influencers and Instagram, and they're, selling you tummy teas and all of these things. But if you curate influence strategically and intentionally, and your goal or your aim is to have a positive influence on people, then you can create a financial asset for yourself by helping other people. And that is what I hope that everybody here really wants to do. And then this is a very typical question that you hear a lot in the marketing world is, do you want to be a Starbucks or do you want to be a Tim Hortons? So I'm really glad everybody here is in Canada, because I've done this presentation to people in the United States before and they didn't know what Tim Hortons was, but I know everybody here does. And you can think about Starbucks and you think about Tim Hortons, and they're two totally different feelings. So for me, for example, I grew up playing hockey like a lot of Canadians do. My dad was my hockey instructor. And when I was younger and it's, 5:30 in the morning and we're going to hockey practice, we stopped and got Tim Hortons. That was kind of the thing that we did in the morning on the way to hockey practice. But, a coffee was like $2 maybe. It was just cheap, quick, easy to get, and Canadian. Starbucks, on the other hand, as I got older, so when I was in university, I would go sit in Starbucks and I would study. And to me, what that shows is the physical environment that Starbucks has created is very different than Tim Hortons. And I wanted to go and spend time there. At Tim Hortons, not really. It was just a quick grab and go, and it was cheap. Starbucks was higher end, more expensive, and I wanted to go be in that environment. So you really have to ask yourself, do you want to be, you want to be a second cup, Renata? Second cup is actually, in my opinion, second cup is in between Starbucks and Tim Hortons. So that's a really good one. So really think about, you can apply this analogy to whatever industry you're in. If you are a marketing professional, sales, IT, if you are in cybersecurity, whatever you're in, I can guarantee that you can think of somebody in your industry that does a really great job and somebody that does kind of just the cheap, get it done kind of thing. So figure out where you want to fit in on that spectrum. So I want to do a little bit of an exercise or a little bit of a game, and I want you to put your answers in the chat box if you feel comfortable with it. So I'm gonna bring up a couple of different words on the screen here, and I just want you to write in the chat if this makes you think of your mom, your brother, your cousin, a coworker, your best friend. Who do these words make you think of? So the first one, caring. So let's see, does this make you think of mom? Me too, 100%. Anybody else? My best friend is very caring, and she was always the mom of the group. My wife, okay. Other mom, grandma, definitely. Also, I just saw somebody posted something in the question thing. If you can just put your question in the chat, For some reason, the Q&A doesn't really work for me. Grandparents, mother-in-law, husband. Awesome. So this is really family oriented. So caring tends to, it tends to elicit this reaction of that closeness, these people that we really, really care about and we know care about us. Okay, we're going to do the next one. Solves all my tech problems. So for me, this is my business partner and side part. Whenever I have an issue like with my computer, I call him and I'm like, this happened, what do I do? Husband, myself, that's awesome, you're very lucky. Google, nice. I'm sure that all the Google employees would be very happy to hear that. Google, interesting, a couple different people. YouTube, for sure. Mostly yourself or Google, okay. Anybody else? Google and a friend sometimes. Husband and Google, okay. And see, that's interesting because what we're doing here, and this is not something I had planned for this, but I want to bring it up. Branding a company like Google and branding yourself are very similar. The same way that you have a feeling like with Google, to me, I almost feel like a sense of relief sometimes when I think about Google because I know that I'm going to be able to learn or gain access to the information that I need. It's a feeling that I have associated with the brand. So for anybody who works in marketing or sales, honestly, or even technology, this is also a really good thing to think about is the company that you're working for or the company you want to work for. What is their brand? How do they make you feel? And do you want to be associated with that? So, I mean, Google's pretty awesome. So it'd be cool to work there. All right, let's go to the next one. Powerful. Who do you think of when you hear the word powerful? For me, I also think of my mom. President Knight, yeah, for sure. I think of my mom because she's like run her own business for a long time and just kind of like can do everything. Prime Minister, for sure. Mom, yes, you are powerful too. I love that. Anybody else in like a friend that you have? Anybody think of a friend that you think of as powerful? I'm curious. I have a couple like entrepreneur friends that I think, yeah, politicians definitely. Yeah, I have a couple entrepreneur friends that I feel I have that feeling from them and I really respect their competence and I feel like they have this presence when I'm with them. Okay, I think we have this one. Great speaker. So is there anybody in your friend group or at work or in your family where either you've heard them present or even just when you're in a group of people together, they're really confident speaking? Obama, 100%. I don't know if anybody saw the Instagram video that he put up. Thank you, Cecilia. Appreciate that. Michelle who? That's from Juan. Another one for me. Thank you. Business partner, for sure. I find a lot of Michelle Obama, yes, for sure. Yeah, I find a lot of entrepreneurs and business people, entrepreneurs and business people have to have really similar skill sets to politicians. So I think that makes a lot of sense. These are people that are really good at speaking. Definitely also professors. Like I know a lot, there's some great professors and then there's some amazing people that really engage you with their lectures. For sure. Okay, I think that was all of the ones that I had. That's a really good exercise that you can do as well when you're figuring out what kind of feeling you want to give somebody, is who do you want to think of you and how do you want them to think of you? So what are these words? Like, do you want to be described as being powerful, competent, kind, compassionate, caring, intelligent, spontaneous? And these are all things that you can use to create a specific brand in a specific industry. So if you're in the health and wellness industry, then you want people to associate you with health and wellness and vibrance and life and even like the color green. Like you want to elicit that emotional reaction of somebody thinking of you and kind of thinking of like health and vitality. Or if you're a politician, I mean, we all know there's a lot of shady politicians, but they want to inspire confidence in their ability to lead. So how do you have that feeling of confidence or of hope, like a hope for a better future? So just some things to think about is what are some of the words that you want to describe you? And then the other thing that I always like telling people is that all of you right now have a personal brand. Everybody does. Your brand is your reputation. And no matter if you have tried to or not, you have willingly or unwillingly created a brand for yourself. This can be a little bit weird to think of at first because you're like, well, I've never, gone through any of these exercises or anything like that. But I'm sure in your family, let's say, for example, you are one of the people that solves everybody's tech problems. That is a part of your brand. Obviously, that's not the only thing that you are as a person, but that is part of your brand that you've created just by being yourself. And that's what we really want to do is we want to understand who you are, the value that you can provide, who you're going to provide it to, and then build that in a very intentional way. This is just a little definition that I always like to bring up is when you curate and you develop your brand with intention, it's powerful. I also think it's very powerful as a way to build self-esteem and confidence in yourself, which I think is very important when you're doing business in a country and in a language that is not your own. And this builds a very strong financial asset for you. I'm going to show you how. All of us are in the referral business. It does not matter if you are a business owner, if you're in sales, if you are in cybersecurity, if you manage technology people, whatever you do, we're all in the referral business. And what I mean by that is that no matter what you want to do in your life, specifically when you're in this growth mindset, so you want to grow your career, you want to get promoted, you want to move to a different part of the world, you want to move to another province in Canada, the first thing that we all do is ask ourselves, who do we know? Is there anybody that I know in this area? And the reason why this is so important is because when you start thinking about how to strategically build this network and you think of yourself as kind of your own little mini business, even if you never want to own your own business, you really start to realize that who knows you and what they know you for matters. It is about who you know, but you also want to reverse it and think about, am I a person that people want to know? Am I a person that people want to refer for a job? Am I a person that somebody wants to ask for advice about something? So when you really start to strategically think about it this way, you realize that we're all in the referral business. It doesn't matter if you're in sales or not. And here's just a couple of ideas of how you can use your brand as a growth mechanism. So getting a promotion, starting your own company, speaking gigs, helping charities and causes you feel passionate about. Because again, it's important to remember that what we're doing here is we are strategically creating influence over a specific target audience. So all of these things, there's a very clear before state and very clear after state. So you don't have the promotion yet, now you have the promotion. You have not started your own company, now you have your first 2 customers. You don't have any speaking gigs, or you have one that you didn't really like, now you have speaking gigs and you love what you're doing. Right now, you don't know how to help a charity. You don't have the time. You could just give money, but you're like, what does that really do? Now, maybe you're able to do speaking engagements for a charity that you feel passionate about. And because you've been able to curate a strategic network of other people that are also in a growth mindset, now you can create real change for this charity. So these are a couple of ideas. Just curious for everybody that's here right now, is there anything on this list? Like that's the reason why you're here today. Do you want to get a promotion? Do you want to make more sales? Do you want to get speaking gigs? What are you looking for from your personal brand? Type your answers in the chat. Do you want to get a promotion? Do you want to start your own company? Do you want to sell something? What do you want to do with your personal brand? Find a job? Get a better job? Promotion? Yep. And my other question here, pivot to a new career, love that. For most of the people that are here, are you working in the fields that you worked in, like in what, I know everybody's not from Latin America, get back into my field. I've heard that a lot is people coming from Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, wherever, you'll come to Canada and you get a job to get a job. And then maybe now you're kind of at that point where you're like, I have the knowledge, I learned this, and now I really want to get a job in the field that I was meant to work in. So is that what people are feeling like as well? Get to know more people, promotion, yep. Changing industries, that's really cool. Start your own company. Cynthia, that's awesome. grow your business. It's Armin. Is that the right way to pronounce it? Armin. Partnerships from Lena. Awesome. Getting a job in the field I used to work in my country. Yes. Okay, that's super common. So let's dive into actually how to build this brand. So what are we going to actually do to build it? So the first thing that we have to do is choose the goal. So that's what we were just talking about. If you want to get a job, if you want to grow professionally. But the thing is that a lot of people, they struggle with branding and they think that it doesn't work because they don't set specific goals. And they just think it's about, posting cool pictures on Instagram and things like that. But I want to take them a moment here. And this is not on the personal branding worksheet, but if you have a piece of paper beside you or even on your phone, this does not have to be, like the specific goal that you want, but just to get some ideas going. What do you want to achieve? Like, what is your next big goal? And I want you to be specific. I want you to include a timeline. And I want you to think about the long-term and the short-term impacts of this goal. And here I just put an example. This is like in my experience with a lot of people that have taken my courses and that I've worked with, this is a very, very common goal. They want to get a promotion to be a product manager in a medium-sized company in the ed tech or educational technology space by December 16th, 2020. So what you can see here is that this is very, very specific. We know that they want to be a product manager. We know they want to do this in a medium-sized company, specifically in the educational technology space, and they want to achieve this by December 16th, 2020. So if anybody is brave enough or they want to put their goal or their outcome in the chat, I'm happy to give you some feedback if you're being specific enough or if not. So if anybody has any ideas, this can be about anything, right? Like, do you want to gain 2 clients? When do you want to gain them by? For professional growth, what is a way that you can measure your progress with professional growth? Is this taking courses? Is this developing a meditation practice? What is this? Does anybody want to share what they think that their goal is? I know there's a lot of people that wanted promotions. In 3 years, find a job as an urban planner in the municipal government. Okay, that's awesome. I want you to be even more specific. What is the specific title? Is this like an urban planner manager? Is this like director of urban planning? What municipal government? Do you want it to be in Toronto? What day in 3 years? Is that 3 years from today? That's Marwa, I think. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that the right way. So yeah, be as specific as you can. Diana, get a job position in the analytical field in a medium/large size company in the consulting industry by January 30th, 2021. Okay, you have 90% of it, but I want you to name the specific position that you want to get. So is this a management position? Do you want to be an analyst? And if you're doing it in the consulting space, so I think there's consulting in any industry. So I want you to try and think, really, what industry do you want to work in? Because in the analytical field or working with analytics, you can work in retail, manufacturing, educational technology. You can work in you could work with hardware companies. So what is the type of consulting space that you want to get into? Armin, I'm still looking to find your way in a new country. There are many, yes, there is a lot of opportunities here. And I think it's awesome that you're here and you're investing in this process. Okay, Sandra, you want to have a seasonal class in college in your field by the middle of next year. Okay, get specific about this, like the type of class, the more specific that you can be, and give yourself like that day deadline. So like you say middle next year, like August 2021, August 13th, 2021, what is it? Get a Xer certificate by the end of 2020. Okay, that one is very straightforward, like it. Diana Good, Senior Insights Analyst, Tech Consulting. There you go, exactly. Lena, my goal is to get a job as an IT project coordinator by January 2021 in a medium-sized company in the financial industry. Awesome, perfect. Sabrina, my goal is to get a job at the City of Toronto to be working there in the planning department in 3 years and working with some autonomy and being recognized for your work in 5 years. Okay, I really love this, and this is really interesting. So what I want you to do as another exercise, define what autonomy means to you. because I've experienced going to work in companies and they told me I was going to have autonomy and I did not have it. So I want you to like write down autonomy means, you know, that I can work from home, or autonomy means that I can make decisions and I have a budget that I get to spend. So I want Sabrina, I want you to define what that means for you. Make decisions. Awesome. And then being recognized for your work in 5 years. Can you find any type of like certifications, or what's the word I'm looking for? Like medals is not the right word. This word is escaping my brain for right now. But some, you know, some type of achievement that you can work towards that's in your industry and it's well known. Paris, getting a position as a BI developer in a medium-sized company by the end of December. Okay, so I want you, if possible, to define the industry that you want to go into, because that's also part of your brand. You can be a BI developer in a lot of different industries, but is there something that you really want to do? And Juan, increase 20 more English students into online classes during the next 2 months for December 31st. Okay, awesome. That is very specific. Good job. Renata, my goal is to get a job as an IT project manager in a very cool startup by the end of March 2021, I'm assuming. Awesome. Same thing with you. I love cool startups, but try and be a little more specific. What type of industry, what kind of startup? And startups is also a very generic term, because I know startups that have like $50 million in recurring revenue each year. And then I know startups that are making no money at all. So you have to get more specific, because you probably don't want to work for free. So you have to find a job in a startup that is making money. Okay, we're going to move on. But I'm going to leave my contact information at the end of this. And so if you have any questions, or you just want to reach out to me and tell me what your goals are, I would absolutely love to see that. So please feel free to share them with me, you know, in the next couple of days and weeks as you go through it. So we have chosen our goal, or the outcome that we want to create. Step number 2 is to define your target audience. Who do you want to influence, and how do you want to influence them? So if I'm this person and I want to become a product manager, then most likely in my organization, there's a senior product manager and there's a director of product, if there's this many positions. So that means these are the people that I want to influence, and potentially other product managers. But first, my main target audience is a senior product manager and the directors of product, because these are the people that can promote me, or they could recommend me to the vice president of product if that person exists in my organization. And here I also want to say, so for me, I have 2 very different audiences, because I have 2 very different companies. And as a result of that, and I'm going to get into this in a little bit, the type of content that I produce is different on Instagram versus LinkedIn. So you can have like multiple different people that you want to influence. I always recommend start with one. So start with your, you know, your most prominent, or that goal that you really, really want to achieve, and start building your brand around that. And then you can introduce other things into the mix as you become more experienced, and you start becoming more known in your industry for that specific thing. So again, if you want to send me, you know, who you think your target audience is after this, I'm happy to see that. Next, we're going to create your personal pitch. So this is on the personal branding worksheet. This is probably the most, no, knowing your audience is probably the most important thing. This is the second most important thing, is how do you communicate with these people? And the other thing that I also want to tell you, a little tip, so write this down, your 1 sentence answer to this question, the outcome you provide, or what do you do? This is perfect to put as your tagline in LinkedIn. So that little line on your LinkedIn profile right under your picture, where a lot of people will put, you know, founder of this, you know, vice president of this, manager of data analytics. This 1 sentence, I want you to put that there, because what happens is when people are on LinkedIn and they're engaging with you, or they see a comment that you made on somebody's post, they see your picture and they see the beginning of that sentence. And it's very different for somebody to see, you know, vice president of business development or manager of business development. It's like, okay, pretty generic. Or I help you book 20 calls in a week, whatever it is. So a very specific outcome that you're providing. So just something to keep in mind. So this is also something that was created by Simon Sinek. He is really, really well known for just branding and creating strategic messaging. And I really love his process. So the first thing that we're going to focus on here is, what do you do? What is the outcome that you provide? Usually when we're talking about this in a business environment, this is where a company would say something like, we help grow your revenue by 20%. So there's a specific measurable business outcome. We can also do this as individuals. Even if, for example, you're a coach or you're a health and wellness coach, you can paint a very clear before and after picture. So helping people lose weight, helping people feel more confident in their bodies, whatever it is. Question from Armin: doesn't it harm our brand if we put two different titles on LinkedIn? Yeah, I'm not saying to put two different titles on LinkedIn. I'm saying keep, like, in your work experience on LinkedIn, that's a different part of the profile. So make sure that you have your title in your work experience, but then that one line that's right under your profile picture, you can use to describe what you do instead of just putting your title there. That's what I recommend. Okay, so we're gonna start first. What is that outcome? What are you providing? And then we're gonna talk about how you do it. So this is where a lot of people get mixed up, and it's really easy. If I asked you, hey, what do you do for a living? And you could tell me, I'm an IT manager, or I'm a product manager. Okay, it's pretty generic. I don't really know what that means. I don't know what you do. But if I asked you that and you told me, oh, I help educational technology companies develop products for e-learning. Cool. So now I know exactly what you do. And I'm like, oh, so are you what does that make you in the company? Like, what do you do? Oh, so I'm a product manager. So my role in the company is to make sure that our team, works with the development team and works with marketing, so that as these products are being developed, they're actually fitting the needs of the customer. So that's where usually you should talk about what your position is when somebody's asking you, how do you do that? And then lastly, this is really important, and it's the hardest question, and it's going to take you a little while to get through it. Why do you do what you do? And I always recommend start your answer by saying, I believe that. And the reason for this is because human beings, we are literally animals. We have in our brain, when we hear somebody say, I believe, I feel, I want, I desire, those are very emotional words. And as human beings, we're naturally attracted to that. We want to hear the rest of the story. And what you're doing here is you're creating your story. And so when you say, I believe that, so let's say this product manager person, believes that online learning is how we're going to save the world, and that's actually, it could potentially be like that. So if this person says, I believe that enabling online learning is how we're going to save the world. And you're like, okay, it totally makes sense that you are a product manager in an e-learning company. It makes total sense why you're doing what you're doing. So for everybody that wants that promotion or that client, or just in general, I want you to think about, what is something that you really strongly believe in, and why does that incentivize you to want this promotion, to want these clients, to want to develop professionally and personally? What is that why? Something to think about. And this is on the worksheet. So I wanted to give you my example. So like I said, I have Dawsey Inc. and then I have Side Part. So this is how I would answer these questions for Dawsey. What do? I help people from Latin America take their careers to the next level by helping them improve their communication skills and understanding of North American business culture. How do I do that? Through a combination of communication training, cultural training, and mindset development. These lessons I deliver either through courses or workshops, like this webinar, for example, or one-on-one coaching. Why do I do this? So for me, I've been obsessed with communication for a really long time. I have a sales background, I have a marketing background, and I also have a technology background. And through all of these things, I realized that when people were not good at communicating, everything fell apart. And people who speak English as a first language, and they suck at communicating in English, and they've just never thought about how to clearly communicate what they want or what needs to get done. And so I realized, as soon as I started learning more about communication, using emotional intelligence in communication, literally my life changed. I got better jobs. I was making more money. I felt better because I didn't feel like I was ever annoying people with my communication. And so for me, I believe that communication is the best tool that every single person here and every single person in the world can use to better their life and the lives of people around them. Because that's another thing in business. When you are a good communicator, people want to work with you because you make it really easy for them to do business with you. And so when you have these communication skills, it improves or enhances the lives of the people around you as well. So this is a really great example of how to clearly and concisely communicate your value proposition. And another little tip, I mean, right now we're not going to in-person networking events, but that awful question that we all get in job interviews, so tell me about yourself. And you're like, okay, immediately, I've never done anything interesting in my life. I'm the most boring person ever, and I'm sweating. And that's a really normal way to feel and act in that situation. But when somebody says, so tell me about yourself, what I want you to do is ask them a question. So if somebody says, Dana, tell me about yourself, I'd be like, oh, did you know, have you ever had Colombian coffee? And they'll probably be like, yeah, it was really good. I know, I absolutely love it. And, the reason why I love it so much is because I've been learning Spanish. That led me to seeing that there's this communication barrier. And that's how I got to where I am now. So if you're ever in that situation or in an interview and somebody says, tell me about yourself, I want you to think of a question that you can ask them back. Doesn't need to be a difficult question, nothing complicated. And then tell them this story. So tell them how, then you realize that you wanted to be able to create this outcome and you wanted to do it by using this process and you want to do it because you believe in this better future. Just a little tip for job interviews. All right, we are going to continue on. Step 3, contributing to your industry. So one of the things that I want to mention here is that in this business environment that we're operating in, content is very important. And this can be hard for some people to accept because you're like, I have kids, I have a life. How do I create content? It's a whole other thing that I need to learn about. And I'm here to tell you, yes, you do need to learn about it and you do need to do it. It's the reality of the world that we're in right now is digital content creation is very important for business growth and career growth. So I'm going to give you a process that you can use to create content, but this is something that you need to invest in. It doesn't have to be like, these crazy influencers that are posting 24/7, a couple times a week to really engage with your network and to provide value to people. That is not only the future of career growth, it's what's happening right now. And also the way to think about this is that you also want to engage with content being created by other people, other leaders in your industry. And this is really necessary to build that brand because it's one thing you have to publish, but you also have to interact and give feedback. And I like to think of it as helping my industry improve itself. So by contributing, I'm helping the other people in the industry as a whole move forward. The other reason why this is really important, specifically right now, is that this is how you generate visibility for yourself. So if you're not posting and you're not engaging and you're going on LinkedIn or you're emailing people in your network and all you're doing is you're just, you're asking them for something when you need it. You're just asking when you need a job. Then that doesn't really create a great relationship and you're not gaining visibility. You're not gaining recognition for what you can do and the value that you can provide in your industry. So it's really important to contribute in some way. Again, you don't need to be like these crazy influencers posting 24/7, but I do think it's really important to contribute. It's very important. It's like the give and take relationship in anything with another human being, but you can also apply the same thing in your industry. And then the other thing here is that when you create content about a specific subject, you're branding yourself because you are becoming an expert on that subject. So think about it. So for me, for example, on Instagram, right now I've hired somebody to help me start producing more content because I have a ton of content I've created, but I needed somebody to help me convert it into Instagram worthy posts. And the reason why this is important is because what I do is very niche. And so when, like, for example, this Saturday, I'm going to post a video clip where I talk about the fundamental differences in the languages of Spanish and in English. So if you watch that video, I'm now going to be an expert in your life on the differences between Spanish and English. And if you consistently consume my content, I now become the expert on helping you understand how to better communicate in English when your first language is Spanish or even Portuguese, because they're obviously very similar. Sandra has a question. Should we create content on one specific topic so people can identify you around that, or can you do it on different ones? Great question. And that is the next thing that we are getting into. what type of content should you create? Great ahead of the curve. So what we're going to do is we're going to define your pillars of proof. So this is a theory or concept that I created, whatever you want to call it. This is also on that worksheet. Your pillars of proof are the subject areas that you want to be known as an expert on. And they also give you a really great framework to create content with, because now you have 3 or 4 pillars or 3 or 4 subject areas that you want to talk about and you want to engage with. And again, a reminder here, when you're building your pillars, this is for 2 things: the type of content you want to create and that you want to add into your industry, but this is also the type of content that you want to engage with. Because again, this is contributing to your industry, this is helping move it forward, and this is giving you visibility with other people that are in your industry, and that's who you want to have visibility from. That's who you want to be in front of. These are the people that you want to influence. So pillars. You can have 3 or 4 pillars. I think if you're just getting started, maybe start with 3, and that's it's kind of like a good way to get started. So these are mine. So for me, pillar 1 is digital transformation. So for example, this week, if you go and look on my LinkedIn profile, one of the things I talked about was silos in organizations, and this is information silos, social silos. There's a lot of politics in doing business, and these are really things that hold us back from implementing true digital transformation strategies that are innovative. So that's one of my pillars, is digital transformation. Second one is mindset development. So mindset development is really important for me. I know also we're in the middle of a pandemic and there's a lot of anxiety going around. So for me, mindset development is things like having a morning routine, meditating, being outside in nature, being away from my phone, curating my mindset. And sometimes it's really hard work. It's not just having a bubble bath and drinking and eating chocolate. This is, spending money on mindset coaching, understanding how psychology works, how my brain is built, and what are limiting beliefs or fundamental beliefs that I have that are holding me back. I have personally spent over $10,000 working with coaches and taking programs to help me understand the psychology of my brain and help me understand how to curate and develop a mindset that's going to allow me to achieve the things I want to achieve, because I want to do a lot of cool things in my life. So that's my second one. My third one is effective communication. So obviously, this presentation that you're all seeing right now is a perfect example of this. So I am truly obsessed with communication in all aspects, not just in business. And so I'll often talk about communication. This I tend to talk about a little bit more on Instagram, but I do talk about it on LinkedIn as well. And then lastly are differences between Latin America and North America. Sometimes this also can kind of look like just talking about Latin culture because I love it. But this is also something that I talk about. Again, this I talk about a little bit more on Instagram, and then on LinkedIn, I adapt this and I talk about it more in terms of the talent coming out of Latin America, the opportunities, both for companies going from North America into Latin America, and then the opposite. So take some time to really think about these things. And what you'll notice here is that this is not all business related. And for example, one difference between Latin America and North America, we're talking about this right before the webinar started, is, so I'll just give you guys an example. I was in Mexico earlier this year. My friend was having a party and he told me it started at 9 o'clock. Great. I show up at 9 o'clock because I'm Canadian and that's what we do here. And I got there and he was like, "What are you doing here?" And he was like really shocked that I was there. I was like, "Well, you told me to come at 9 o'clock. And then he was like, no, go and come back in like an hour or 2 hours. And then everybody's going to be here." So to me, that's hilarious, but that's actually kind of an important thing when you're building relationships, whether or not they're social or in business, to understand some of these cultural differences. So I just adapt the messaging based on the platform that I'm using. So make sure that you fill out this worksheet and you think about, what do you want to be known for? Not only in business, but if you want to be known for health as well, you could replace like mindset development with like health and wellness, whatever it is that you want. Questions about pillars of proof before we kind of summarize everything? Anybody have questions? Anybody have any ideas for the type of content or what one of your pillars would be? Does anybody want to share that? Anybody? Content channels. Do you mean like the platforms that you would use? Video, text, podcast? Yeah, so this is like definitely a whole other subject area, but really, really quickly on LinkedIn right now, I think text posts are doing really, really well. I think that might start to change because there was a huge kind of like burst of everybody just doing text posts. So I would say on LinkedIn, focus on first text posts. And then after that, posting videos, but videos of yourself talking about one of the subjects that you want to be known as an expert on. When it comes to Instagram, stories, that is like the best way to connect with people, stories. And then you can do photos and videos on the feed. Podcasts are amazing. If you have one, if not, try and get interviewed on other podcasts and then turn that into video clips or audiograms or sound clips of you talking, including even, you know, a picture of you sitting down and recording it. Sandra, in your case, you work on migration and research. Yeah, so that could be, if those are two very distinctive things, 100%. If there's something that are very, you know, related to each other, and they both fall under immigration, then you can put it under one. Or if they're very separate, then definitely make them as two other pillars. Rohit, building a secure future. Okay, so that I think you need to get a little bit more specific. So, you know, what type of security? So, because when I think of that, I kind of think of like financial security. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but maybe one of your pillars is financial literacy, or it could be like through compliance in banking. Okay. Compliance in banking. Compliance in banking is one of your pillars. And one of your other ones could also just be like banking, but talking about the trends that also impact compliance. Because when you're, especially in the financial industry, you want to demonstrate that you have general industry knowledge, so understand what's happening, and then you also want to show that you understand how your specific skill set fits into that. Another question, is it I don't know how to pronounce your name, Hera? Were the basic considerations one should take for effective communication in an interview? Really good question. So there's a couple different things to consider is body language. So for example, right now I'm looking at a camera. Obviously we're doing most interviews through Zoom right now. So same thing, you want to be looking directly at the camera. Like you don't want to be obviously sitting like this, present yourself. That's kind of number one. So making sure that you have good body language. The next thing, and specifically if English is your first language, slow down. And this is actually something called tonality. I'm going to write this, tonality. This is not the tone of your voice. So the tone of your voice is how high pitched it is. So if I'm talking like this, that's like a really high tone. That's not tonality. Tonality is emphasizing certain words or concepts that are important. This can be like whispering, yelling, pausing. So when you're in an interview and you either feel nervous or you really want to emphasize one of your areas of expertise, then what you can do is when you're talking about it, you can use tonality, pausing on certain words to make sure that the interviewer or the person who is who's interviewing you, they understand that this is important. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm also happy to provide you with a couple other tips for interviewing, because that's a massive whole other kind of subject area. Renata, other examples of pillars of proof. Okay, so what did you want to do? You wanted to get a job in a startup. I can't remember, as an IT project manager. Okay, so if you want to be in a management position, one of your pillars should revolve around the management of people, management best practices. What are tactical tips or practical advice that you can give to other people to show that you're a good manager? So that could be like one of your pillars of proof. And then, you know, I always like to include something that's personal or shows that I have a personality. Because for example, if I didn't have mindset development, or I didn't really talk about my experiences living in Latin America, that'd be really boring. And I would just seem like all I wanted to talk about was technology. So Renata, are there any other hobbies or communities that you're involved in? A lot of people that are here right now are involved with Hispanotech. And a girl that took my course is really involved with Hispanotech. And one of the pillars or things that she talks about is helping the Hispanic community thrive in Toronto. She also works in data analytic or data governance. But she also is the Hispanic community is really important to her. So that's one of the things that she wants to talk about, and she wants to demonstrate that by engaging with content and being a part of this community. So if you can think of any other hobbies or communities or things that you're passionate about and involved in, those should 100% be one of your pillars, because that is who you are. And we want to extend your brand from you as a human being into the business world and the universe. Really great questions. Nice. Okay. So quick recap. This is just to build that foundation. So always make sure that you understand the outcome that you're working towards, or that specific measurable goal. Who is your target audience? Who do you want to influence, and why do you want to influence them? So don't just pick somebody at random. Make sure that it is strategic. Then go through developing your what, how, and why. This can also be, the answer to tell me about yourself, and make sure that you separate them properly. So your what is the outcome that you provide for somebody, the how is the process you use, and the why is what you believe in. And then make sure you develop your pillars of proof. And this will be the foundation of your personal brand and how you create content and how you engage with content. Leveraging your personal brand. I know that we're a little bit, we just have like a couple minutes. So I'm gonna go through this really, really quickly. Inbound versus outbound leveraging. Inbound leveraging is when somebody sees a piece of content that you've created and they reach out to you maybe for a job, or they want your advice, or whatever it is. You have shown that you have expertise, and so that person wants to talk to you. Outbound leveraging is more for if you're in sales, or you're looking for a job, or you're looking for mentorship, and you're using a piece of your own content, or the receiver's content to reach out to them and start that relationship. So let's look at an actual example. And I'm hoping, I don't know if it's possible for a Spenotech, if you guys can send out the full presentation to everybody, because they can actually use these templates to reach out to people. So that would be ideal if we could do that. So this would be if you're applying for a job. So subject line, wait, is that what it is? Yeah, subject line, applying to a job. So let's say I was applying to a job and Sharon is the hiring manager, and I saw that she'd done a podcast interview or whatever, she'd created something. Usually if you are applying to a job, I always recommend trying to find a piece of content that that person has created or at least engage with. And then I would, talk about this episode piqued my interest, and I saw that your company name is hiring for, an IT manager position. My experience is very relevant, specifically quick summary of an achievement. Another one, attaching my resume for a more in-depth overview of my work. Please let me know which of the following dates or times work best to connect over a 30-minute Zoom meeting. I always just assume, okay, awesome. Carlos is going to post the slide deck in LinkedIn. Awesome. I always assume the person wants to talk with me. The worst thing that they can say is no. And people in North America, we tend to respond well when people we call it an assumptive close. This is like a good term, assumptive close. I assume that I'm closing this. It's kind of a sales term, but I assume that we're going to have this next step. I assume that we're going to have this meeting. So I always give 2 dates and times, time range. And then I also, to always make sure there's pretty much no way that they can say no. Sharon, if these days are hard for you, I'm also pretty open on Friday. Looking forward to it, and talk soon. So this is a great way to approach a hiring manager. And the other thing is that ideally, you want to apply directly to the person that's hiring you, not through a recruiter or HR. That kind of goes against a lot of other people's advice. But I think that when you go through, you go through the HR person, they don't tend to know the department that well sometimes. And so if you can find the person even that you think would be hiring them, send them this message. And you never know, they could be really impressed by you. That's how I got a lot of my jobs. So that's one example. Second one is mentorship. So honestly, really, really similar structure. We're just asking for something different. So let's say I'm reaching out to a guy named Jeff, and he wrote an article and it really helped me. In this specific case, when you're asking for mentorship, you are asking for somebody to help you improve your skills or your understanding of the industry. And so what you want to do is show them that they've already helped you. This makes people feel good. If you can help somebody and you get a random email and they read your article and it helped them improve their performance and work, okay, you kind of have a connection with this person now. So I'd say, hey, Jeff, your article about digital transformation helped me better understand management struggles, when they're going through digital transformation. You summarized information silos and social silos so clearly. Do you think that it's better to do, a collaborative workshop or implement a new policy, when applying your advice to whatever situation I have? And then I say, if you're open to it, I'd love the opportunity to learn from you and have a quick 30-minute Zoom call to talk about this topic in more detail. So I'm being very specific. I'm not just asking for his time. I'm showing that I've done my research. I know what he's an expert on, and I'm showing that I'm attentive and I want to learn from him. And then I do the exact same close. So do any of these following dates times work for you? Always give a couple different options. So this is an example of how to outbound leverage. So you're leveraging his content. And then there's a bunch of other examples we don't have time for today, but those are two great examples for you. So in summary, for all of this, you can and should use your brand to strategically grow your network. Always start with who you want to influence and why, and be consistent in your efforts. Like anything else, like going to the gym, learning a second language, whatever it is, you have to be consistent in order to see those results. That is all of the content that I have for you amazing folks today. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat. I'm okay to hang out for another couple of minutes for any questions that you have. And thank you so much. Book or document you recommend about personal branding. So I would say, Simon Sinek, this is Simon Sinek, Start With Why. This is not specifically about personal branding, but it will help you understand the psychology behind developing a personal brand and what it can do for you. There's another link, the LinkedIn Playbook by Scott. I can't remember his last name. It's available on Amazon. Really focus on LinkedIn, but it kind of takes you through a similar process that I went through today. Besides that, I've actually not really used any books to learn this. I've just done it through doing. So also just reread this presentation and try and find some people on LinkedIn and Instagram and other social channels that you think add a lot of value, and copy what they do. Thank you, everybody. Any other questions? And obviously, please take down my contact information. And if anything comes to your mind, like in the next couple of days, because we went through a lot of information. So yeah, please reach out to me. Can you share LinkedIn with other attendees? I don't know if you can do that in the chat here. I don't know, Lucero, is that possible for people to like post their links in here? I don't think that it is. But a way that you could potentially all connect with each other is tomorrow you could all wake up and make a LinkedIn post about like, what is the one main thing that you learned from this presentation? And I can guarantee that by all of you doing that, and tag Hispanotech in your post, and you can tag me if you want to, and you'll start to see all of the other posts of people that tagged Hispanotech, because it's being brought into your network. Thank you. Have a really good night. Just an idea if everybody wants to connect with each other that came tonight. And please connect with me, please. This is my full name, Dana Doswell. You can find me on LinkedIn, and this is my Instagram. Dana Dawsey is like my nickname from when I played hockey. So yeah, please connect with me there, and I would love to have you in my community and in my network. Thank you, everybody, for coming. If we have no other questions, sorry, go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much, Dana. And this was a very interesting topic, and I learned a lot. Awesome. Thank you again to Triac for another great collaboration. And last but not least, thank you all our participants. We hope you enjoyed this webinar as much as we did. Have a great rest of the evening. Thank you, Dana, again. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias. Que estén bien. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.